good. The only one is good. He's got the helmet. Might use it. Creeped up into pieces.
Yeah, that's right. I wasn't in charge of anything.
Correct.
No, I did that.
Okay, everybody, hang on another 10 minutes. The helmet team in Mass is going to be coming at about 20 after, so that's what we're waiting for.
Yeah. Did you want to? Are you going to wait for them to start the introduction as well?
Yeah, they're going to be here shortly. So
here's some of them.
I got some of them now. Okay. Oh, the rest of you guys on the way.
Yeah. Whoever's you finish out the introduction.
We're holding off. Okay. You know when they'll be here?
Probably shortly. You can probably start it up.
You can probably start, yeah.
Okay.
We should clear off this table.
No.
Okay.
Do you guys want to do a check run on the mannequin before we begin, so we don't
Yeah, that's a
kind
good
of.
idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
fog machine?
Yeah.
Oh, we just
would also like to
What's
ask
okay?
everyone when you come and start to
All right.
introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people. Hey guys. Whoever left their stuff on this table, can you clear it off? Because it's going to be used as presentation space.
It's
Why
from
don't we just get
before
another
then.
table? It's from before.
Yep. Just switch that table out.
Over here. Grab it.
You can use that.
No, we just want to put that. Oh, can you do the last fire up? Yeah, but if people want.
I see it basically.
Oh, we were going to use that mic because people are going to be handing them around. That was going to be the main mic. No. Yeah, actually, I don't think I need a mic. I think I can speak loudly enough. Can people hear me in the back? Hey, Robert? Yeah, people can hear me in the back.
I think we're all here.
Yeah, I'll hear it.
Robert, is this a good volume? Okay, so then I don't have a mic.
Now, one thing, if anybody has trouble projecting or feels they want some assistance, we have lapel mics and we have a hand mic. So the power in here is a lot better than the other room. Don't worry about using it. We'll give it to you. You can use it, okay? Are we all ready to start? Okay.
We have two hand mics. Now I figure we'll have one for questions.
All right. Okay, start the clock.
This works, and this works. Great. You want a mic?
No, I don't need one. I'm too loud. You guys can hear me in the back, right? Okay. All right, so today we're here to present the phase 1 products of our efforts to design a spacesuit for Mars. And it's been sponsored by the Mechanical Engineering Department. And Professor Abinsky back there has been instrumental in arranging this and helping me get this together. And of course, you guys are the most important parts of the whole puzzle. We've had many contributors who've helped us, and you'll see who they are as we go forward. But before we do that, and this is by way of review because some people are watching and don't know about our project at all. And in addition, this same presentation is going to be given in Washington next week. We need a little bit of history. So I want to show you this. And as you watch it, I want you to figure out what's wrong with this picture. There are two things wrong with this picture. I guess you can't hear that, can you? Okay, can anybody tell me what's wrong with this, what you just saw? I'll give you a couple of hints. The first hint is that a gas pressurized spacesuit looks like that. It doesn't look like what you saw. So what you saw was kind of skin tight and cool looking, right? But that's what an oxygen pressurized spacesuit looked like. And yet the alert was oxygen level critical, oxygen level critical. And why was it? Because he was stabbed with a spike, right? That's from The Martian. He was stabbed with a spike down below the helmet. There's no oxygen down below the helmet in a mechanical counterpressure suit, is there? So in other words, what's essentially wrong with that is that that doesn't exist. And that can't happen if you separate the helmet from the torso and you don't have any oxygen below the neck. You can't have that kind of issue. The second thing is this itself, much deeper. Experts warn that NASA's journey to Mars is an illusion. Okay? So, humans to Mars has technical barriers. These are some of the major technical barriers that people talk about when they say getting to Mars is going to be very hard. EDL stands for entry, descent, and landing. Landing a 25-ton payload within 7 minutes of descending from the atmosphere, and that's 1/100th as thick as ours, is a very difficult thing to do. We have not done it. We have not landed more than 1 ton. To land 25 tons is a massive problem, or we call it a technical barrier. We have issues in human physiology. Can an astronaut land a descent craft after 6 months, a journey of at least 6 months with no gravity? Then we have radiation protection as an increased cancer risk of up to 18%. The immune system degrades during that journey. Bone loss degrades. We have up to 15% bone loss during the journey without gravity. And isolation behavior dysfunctions. We have all of those possibilities. Then we have, once we get to Mars, planetary protection. There's a committee on planetary protection. Their job is to make sure 2 things. We don't contaminate this planet with our own bugs, and we don't bring bugs back there that could cause a pandemic on Earth. So we have planetary protection issues. And last but not least, the topic of today, spacesuits and life support system. We have yet to design anything that would work on the planet Mars. So if you look at these things, these are real barriers. However, despite the doubts and despite the barriers, humans are going to Mars sooner than later, probably in the 2030 to 2035 timeframe. Why? First of all, Mars is a backup planet to Earth. Everything that we need to live and survive is there. Second thing is the barriers you just saw are all being addressed, and they're falling away. We probably know how to attack successfully every one of those barriers that you just saw. The other thing is we know a lot more about Mars today than we knew about the moon in 1969 prior to the Apollo program. A rich heritage of technology and information has been gathered by all the probes that have gone there. We're also going to hunt for life past the present because we want to know if we're alone. We're hoping we're not alone. And of course, this one, because we can get there. It's there, and exploration is in our genes. These are all the many, many reasons you'll hear when you read about this, of going to Mars. But none of those are as important as the last two. It's an interesting place. There have been 3 times as many hits on the Mars websites as there are people on Earth. And that's a couple of years old. It's probably 4. So you're talking about billions of hits. Obviously, it's interesting. And to educate and inspire our future leaders. So when I say that, what does that really mean? Take a look at percentage of Americans answering correctly on a survey that was given. See these numbers here? The center of the Earth is very hot. 78% get that. Humans developed from an earlier species of animal. Less than a half. Oxygen we breathe comes from plants. Well, that's pretty good. Earth goes around the sun once a year. 47% got that right. And keep on going. Humans did not. You see, what's this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cigarette smoking causes cancer. Ugh, 35%. No wonder we got so many medical issues. But there is a possible benefit to doing something like this, and that's shown in this graph right here. This is the number of math and science graduates by decade. And you see it goes along and ticks until it gets right here, which is the start of the Apollo project. You can see this great kick that happened that's documented as a result of our project to go to the moon. So of all the reasons I can think of to do something like this, this is the biggest and the most important. So what we're going to talk about today is spacesuit concepts. What kind of spacesuit is a barrier technology to get to Mars? There are 2 existing and competing designs. One of them is the NASA evolutionary design, and the other one is what we call the MIT biosuit. These are NASA evolutionary designs. It starts out with Apollo, and there's a hard suit, an International Space Station. You see what I was saying about an inflatable suit, how big it looks? It looks like nothing like the one that you saw on the Martian. And then finally, you try to get something a little more svelte, and you end up with the current design, which is called the Z2, which looks like a fashion product. What do all these things have in common? Every one of them has in common they're pressurized with oxygen. They use either sublimation or evaporation for thermal control. They have hard upper torsos and liquid-cooled garments and multi-layer insulation. They are all a thermos bottle approach. What that means is you can stick them anywhere outside, extreme hot, extreme cold, simultaneously, no pressure, some pressure, and they can handle it because they're built like a thermos bottle. That means they have to have fans, pumps, heat exchangers, closed loops, and chemical canisters to remove carbon dioxide. It means they must have heavy portable life support systems. They are complex, and they're very expensive. The competing design is the MIT biosuit. Started out in 2002, still being an ongoing project. And it uses, instead of air, it uses a material to provide the pressure. Mechanical counterpressure uses spandex, Kevlar, elastic, and other materials. It has lines of non-extension to reduce the number of layers. It has a breathing bladder to balance the chest pressure. It's tested to 3.6 pounds per square inch. That's short of the target of about 4.2, but it hasn't been tested for very long. It has to be custom tailored. It uses a whole body laser scan. Cooling is by evaporation through the layers directly to the outside. That has a gas-filled helmet and gloves and boots. And it's simplified over earlier designs that started in the 1960s but it's very hard to get in and out of. It's very complex. The technology is daunting. And although it's funded by the NASA advanced programs, it has not been baselined by NASA. NASA has looked at it many times and has resisted doing this. So at this point, those designs you look like, it's important to distinguish what they really are from what's really needed. A spacesuit consists of three things: a pressure garment assembly called a PGA, a portable life support system, and miscellaneous hardware. The PGA is usually the lightest, while the portable life support system is the heaviest. But the designs that you saw, the Z2 and the MIT BioSuit, they're not spacesuits. They're pressure garment assembly. So by nature, they're just one piece of the pie, the lightest piece. So if you look at all the suits that are out there today, why can't they be used on Mars? And there are many reasons. I'll just skim through them real quick. The current suits exceed 300 pounds, far too heavy for Mars. They depend on sublimation, unfeasible for Mars. They don't have radiation protection. They have a very poor center of gravity, making it difficult to work. They're not designed for walking. They have massive fingernail damage from the gloves, continuing over 1,000 cases of reported damage from fingernails during two fingernails during extravehicular activities. They waste precious liters of oxygen. And you can't use them in dusty surfaces repeatably. They're not made for repeated use. They don't provide planetary protection. They can't be shared in an emergency. If you have a puncture, a serious puncture, you've got 11 seconds before you lose all the oxygen in the system. And as a result, you lose consciousness, and that's all she wrote. Communication with using these spacesuits to Earth is difficult because you have lag times in communicating to mission control, your helpline, of up to 40 minutes. You have a real emergency, you can't depend on mission control to help you. And finally, you can't just jump outside if there's an emergency. You need to help somebody outside because you have to pre-breathe for 30 to 40 minutes to get all the nitrogen bubbles out of your system so you don't get the bends. So these are all the problems inherent in today's spacesuits and why they won't work on Mars. So if you look at all that, the Apollo suits, the Mark III, the Z2, the ISS spacesuits, they're all meant to operate like a thermostat in a vacuum environment with simultaneous boiling and freezing temperatures. The MIT BioSuit has been under development in one form or another for over 50 years with no end in sight. All these suits are either too complicated or too heavy for Mars. Using them is like putting a square peg in a round hole. What to do? Well, what to do is, unless significant breakthroughs happen, somebody on Mars might look like this. Or, more appropriately, like this. In fact, this bubble suit, beanbag suit from the sleeper that Woody Allen is not a bad idea. You could fill it up with beanbags and roll down the hills. But the real suit is probably going to look more like this. If we take the current designs, the current heavy, complicated designs, you will be tethered to a rover. It'll be too heavy to wear for more than a couple of hours. The umbilical will be crucial. It will be neither autonomous nor optimized for having to work every day, 6, 7, 8 hours a day on Mars, which is what you're going to have to do. You're living there. You're not just visiting for a brief time. Of all the problems, and there are many, the biggest one is the mass. Interviews with geologists, astrogeologists, military personnel, backpackers have established that the maximum desirable mass to carry on one's back should not exceed 23 kilograms on Mars. That's 50 pounds equivalent on Earth. 50 pounds equivalent on Earth is 50 pounds equivalent on Mars is 132 pounds on Earth. So we have a suit, not many suits that weigh in excess of 300 pounds, and somehow we've got to get the weight down to 132 pounds before we ever leave. That's how daunting the problem is. Almost 2/3 of the weight has to go away somehow. And NASA is working on an advanced portable life support system, which they say will help do that. The problem is that advanced portable life support system, their desirable weight, their target weight alone is 150 pounds. So as soon as you add that, you burst the bubble of what you want to do. You're past that point. Houston, we have a problem. This is not a fashion show. What do we got to do? The first thing to do is recognize we're not visiting outer space. We're not visiting the moon. We are going to a planet. It is a big planet. And it's a big place. And it has an environment that's very diverse, depending on where you go. How diverse? Just look at some of these images. Frost, widespread frost. Here we have ice-filled craters. We have water coming down with dunes. Look at this view of the South Pole. We have rocky terrain. We have gentle hills, undulating plains. We have majestic craters. And we have flat places with occasional rocks that are strewn. Looks very, very comfortable, right? So if you look at this, you realize this is a big planet. Everything is diverse. If you're going to go to a place like this, do it like we do on Earth, right here. What does that mean? There's air, mostly carbon dioxide. There's pressure. There's seasons. The temperatures range from sub-icy to moderate. It's got very low humidity. Gravity is 38% of ours, which means you can move around a lot easily. Days are like hours, 24 hours, 39 minutes. The soil is Earth-like. You can likely grow things there. Bottom line, would you wear a ski jacket in the Caribbean? Or would you wear a bathing suit in Antarctica? Of course not. You've got a diverse environment. Use it. Question is how? How would you use it? Well, one way to do it, the best way to do it, is make engineering a follower, not the driver, not the leader, like it's always been in the past. For all the past programs that we've had, engineering has created an extravehicular mobility unit or a full-up spacesuit, and science has been the slave. The other approach is to take science, namely the environment, use that to drive the engineering, and make the suit the slave of this design. It's kind of backwards to the way we've always done it. Okay, the solution that we've decided to do here is a hybrid dual gas suit, integrated by a multidisciplinary approach driven by the Martian environment. And the essence of it is very unusual. We want to split the helmet apart from the torso. We want to have a separate design, and by doing so, we'll be able to, as you'll find out, get rid of pumps and heat exchangers, and get rid of the thermospatal approach, evaporate heat to the atmosphere instead of through a closed loop, reduce oxygen usage rate, minimize planetary contamination, et cetera, et cetera. So in order to get that point across, I just want to show a brief animation that kind of captures it. You'll see more about this when the teams start to present. So what's going on here is the atmosphere is comes in through the suit through a compressor. It goes in and pressurizes the body, and at the same time, the helmet is being pressurized by oxygen that you breathe. So you're basically taking in the atmosphere, it's coming in, it's pressurizing the body, it's removing all the heat and all the waste, and then it's being pumped right out through a relief valve. And you separate these two with a very critical component we'll be hearing about called the neck dam, right? There are many issues with this, but that's our primary design, and that's what we're working on solving those issues. There's another approach to this, which stems from the fact that if you don't want to contaminate the atmosphere with what you're expelling from the suit, and you want to keep a closed system instead of an open system, you can do that too, because this atmosphere is used to pressurize the suit, and then it doesn't go out anymore, so you don't contaminate. However, because the atmosphere is so dry, you can evaporate to it, and you can get rid of all your heat that way. So special materials are required to do this. So you go across the pressure bladder and you capture the evaporated sweat, and believe it or not, an outer layer captures it and forms a snow. a frost on the outside layers of the suit. So it's a different approach entirely, but it still depends completely on the use of the Martian atmosphere. And in both these cases, you're getting rid of all the pumps and heat exchangers and fans that make the weight up. Let's skip this for a moment. How to execute a project like this. We call it the MarsSuit project, and our objective is to develop a technology while supporting STEAM. STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math education. So that's our dual goal. We've had many contributors and many helpers in this semester, which is the first kickoff semester of this project, and you can see some of them, notably faculty and staff of UC Berkeley, and CEO of Paragon Exploration Systems, astronaut Charlie Camarda, Dr. Penny Boss. Many, many people have helped out here. Final Frontier, the former lead of the Russian Space Agency spacesuit design project, Nikolai Moisev has helped. Many people have helped get this project off the ground. So what's our approach to solving this problem? The methodology is such like this. We create a university, industry, and NASA synergy. We break the project into fundamental elements, and we organize teams around these elements, and then we communicate with each other, and we have peer review. So how would that look? Here you see an image of how you might break a Mars spacesuit into all its pieces. You see these many pieces here, and then we combine these elements into 8 teams: requirements, helmet, torso, PLIS, portable life support system, gloves, boots, materials and soft goods, software, and logistics and funding. And those are the teams that we work together with around on these elements. So the way this works is each of these elements right here has a team associated with it, and that team comes from a talent pool. We're accumulating a talent pool as we speak. Right now, the talent pool are the people in this room, and those who've helped us. And each one of these teams is comprised of groups that are interested and want to do that. So when you start the ball rolling, they begin with a given starting point, and then at the end of the semester, which is where we stand right now, they do reports, trade studies, prototypes, concepts, and that's the product you're about to see today. And then that product gets feedback. It goes into an integration team. It goes out for peer review and critique, and then it comes into this communication tool, and it's redistributed back to the same teams the next semester. And so you have basically a vehicle. It's coming through this loop each time around. And every time it goes around the loop, it improves and matures and evolves. And we're only at the beginning, but already a lot of progress has been made, as you'll soon see. Everything is supplemented by lectures. You see all these lectures that we've been giving, laboratory sessions, and then brainstorming concepts and prototyping. And so you see all the teams get together, as they've been doing all semester, and they brainstorm and come up with concepts, and if they can, prototypes. Essential to all of this is a communication tool. How do you communicate when you're not in this room? You cannot build a spacesuit between the hours of 5 to 7 on Tuesday and 1 to 3 on Thursday. You have to be able to do this whenever you want, with whoever you want. And the way to do that is with an online communication tool called the NASA Epic Challenge website. And it has web pages, chat rooms, whiteboards, ways of events, getting up to speed and communicating. Here's an example of what it looks like. You can see all the people, what they're doing on the projects, and you can go to that www.epicchallenge.com and find out all about it. And it helps teams, it helps everybody answer these questions. Who are my team members? What's the background? Who are the experts? What's my task? What's been done? What are some possible solutions? What do other people think? Lots of skills are required by the people taking this. Presentation skills, which you're about to see, networking, all of these things you learn. Okay, so with that, what are the ongoing projects that we've been working on? What are the big ticket items? Very quickly, mass reduction, planetary protection, protecting the skin against toxic materials in the Martian atmosphere, mobility and performance, life sciences, variable pressure, torso and gloves that have better dexterity, advanced thermal control, advanced materials. This is something we'll talk about shortly, advanced direct blood cooling, materials that reflect body heat back to the body to make you warmer when it's colder outside. This is an interesting one that came from Israel. It's a gamma ray radiation protector in the form of a vest that you wear. It's under development, and that's one of the concepts we're kicking around. Smart technology, because you don't have mission control. The suit has to be mission control, so you have to make the suit capable of answering and solving immediate problems. And we do it with these two programs you'll hear about shortly. And so it's okay to talk about this, but the devil is in the details. How do you get from the paperwork to prototype? And the biggest challenges that we faced in starting this project off, as you'll see here, a neck dam separating the helmet and torso, a pressure bladder that allows sweat to get through it, toxicity protection from the Martian atmosphere, planetary protection, radiation protection, and those are our main goals. So sorry I had to take that long to introduce the project to those who may not have been familiar with it, but that sets the stage for what you're about to hear. Benjamin, can you come up and introduce the teams and take over for me for now?
Hi guys. So I don't have a ton to say to kick things off because Dr. Carey did the introduction, but I'm going to be sort of moderating this discussion as we carry on. So if you have any questions or anything, just raise your hand and I'll make sure you get a mic and your question gets answered. But first, we're just going to kick things off with the helmet team. So if you guys want to come up, and I think, Janelle, do you need a mic?
I think we're okay.
Okay.
Do you guys want to use the mic? Yes? Yes, okay, we'll use it.
Okay, so as you can tell, it's working. And I'm just going to pass the mic over to Janelle, and she will kick things off for Team 2. That's the helmet team.
All right, thank you guys so much for coming today. So we are Team 2, and we actually did the helmet design. And so we'll be showing a little demonstration later. So this is a little mannequin frame here. But we'll go ahead and go through our presentation. So I just want to go ahead and introduce all of our team members. So just raise your guys' hands so they can see who you are. So we have Colt Nicholson, who is a mechanical engineer. We have Eric, who's also a mechanical engineer. We have Sean, who is a mechanical engineer. Alondra, who is a mechanical engineer. Alex, who is also a mechanical engineer. Jason, who's a mechanical engineer, and Nick, who's a mechanical engineer. And my name is Janelle, and I'm a sociology and media student. So lots of diversity. So Dr. K kind of already went over a lot of our objectives, but I'm just going to go ahead and go over our objectives as a team. And so what we really wanted to do was design and build a Mars helmet that allowed human life on Mars. So we did a lot of research, designing, and we also created a prototype of the helmet in order to kind of figure out how we were going to do this and how it would work. And then we also wanted to create, we wanted to integrate a heads-up display within our helmet. And so we'll also be talking about that a little later. And our biggest thing, as Dr. K said earlier, was designing how we were going to separate the torso and the helmet. So that was really awesome, and we got to do that through the neck exam, which we'll have Alex talk a little bit about a little bit later. And then, so this is just kind of an overview of how we did our design process. So the first step was establishing our objective. The second was doing a lot of research. So we used a lot of the NASA databases to look at the average size of human and all of those details. We then started to brainstorm designs. We then just created kind of an idea of what we wanted. We reviewed the designs. We went over research again and fixed all the errors with our designs. We then bought the materials and built the proof of concept, which is right by me right now. And then we also created an engineering report that will be in the Epic Challenge website. So people in the future can look at why we made the decisions we did with our helmet design, and they can pick and choose what they like or didn't like about it in the future. And so this is just a little couple of pictures of our designing process and kind of our end results. And so we're really excited for next semester and what will come next semester and in the future. So now I'll go ahead and pass it over to Jason.
First, we did before we decide the helmet, we have to figure out what environment we deal with. We basically did a lot of research about the Mars environment. The data I want to point out is the temperature range. We determine the type of material depends on the range of the temperature on the Mars. So, for example, the basic material we use for the helmet is polycarbonate. The working temperature for the polycarbonate is around 180 Celsius to negative 100 Celsius. But we can look at the table. The temperature, the lowest temperature on the Mars is negative 140. That means some polycarbonate may not work on some area on the Mars. And also, we can see Mars has 95% carbon dioxide. That's why we came out the idea of an open system. We use the carbon dioxide from the Mars to pressurize the torso, and we use the oxygen to pressurize the helmet. And the neck dam and neck wing is to separate two different systems. There is a four main component for the helmet. There's EVA extravehicular visor assembly, and the CCA communication carrier assembly, and DCN display and controller module and EVA includes the TV cameras on the top of the helmet. They record all the video and send it to the ground. And also we have the gold cover visor. It will block all the sun and the radiation from the sun. And also there's four headlights on the top of the helmet, an adjusted fender, and a class clear and an impact resistant cover. CCA communication carrier assemblies has one microphone, one earphone to allow us to astronauts to communicate with each other and listen all the warning, all the information from the ground. ECM display and control modules. It contains all the valve, all the control and LED display, which show all the necessary information, for example, oxygen level and pressure level. And astronaut can operate the PLIS from the modules. The last component is drinking bath. In order to finish 8 hours spacewalk, water is necessary, and when they bind the valve, they open the tube and they take a drink, and release the valve to stop. Another main subject we do the research is about the BioSuit. The BioSuit and the helmet was designed by Dr. Hellman from MIT and her research team. And based on the picture, we can see the main features is movable, and the head-up display, and neck band, and the gas pressurized. The head-up display should be on the brown visor. The gold covers visor is to block the sun and sunshine and radiation. You can see from the picture on the right, you can open the helmet at the back of the helmet, and the blue small thing is to support the helmet. And from the picture, we can see the blue arrow is to show how the air flow from the back of the exchange pipe around the helmet. And you can also see that involves the neck band and neck wings concept. They will finish the prototype and all the design on 2030. So we hope we can work together and get it done. So next, I will pass to Alondra.
Hello. So prior to coming up with our proof of concept for our helmet, we spent several hours just brainstorming. We had several brainstorming sessions in the past several months. And in these brainstorming sessions, we spent a lot of time researching and studying multiple spacesuit helmet design requirements that we had to satisfy. And a lot of these requirements we took from lists from NASA and Paragon's online documents, and also from industry professionals that came to speak to us on several occasions, of them including Penelope Boston from NASA, Nikolai Moisa from Final Frontier, and Paragon's Grant Anderson. And they're all very helpful in providing us with their insights and critique on our concept designs. And so with that, we came up with a list of considerations that fell under the following categories. So safety, ergonomics, planetary protection, usability, and overall integration. So safety. So the overall safety of our astronaut is our biggest concern. We want to make sure we design a helmet that is able to protect the wearer at all times and from all exterior forces. So with that said, we want to make sure our helmet clearly indicates warning signals and also safety protocols so that in the case of an emergency, our astronaut has ample time to return to shelter and then be further monitored by the crew. And to expand on that a little bit, we learned in class about a piece of integrated software that was used during lunar missions that reduced ground support requirements and enhanced crew safety. And it was a piece of software called VIOLET. It was an acronym that stood for Voice Initiated Operator for Lunar Exploration Tracking. It was kind of like Siri. So in a sense, we want to design a helmet or just a smart suit. So this piece of software was very effective and helpful in that it presented user-prompted information such as heat and metabolic rates, and also automatic alerts such as astronaut hydration levels and recharging alerts and overexertion alerts. It was very effective. So with that in mind, we wanted to integrate into our concept heads-up display, which has integrated virtual reality technology, which is relatively new and super cool, but we'll get into detail later on in the presentation. So to continue on with our considerations, we want to make sure our helmet has adequate ventilation to provide oxygen and breathable air, and also we want to make sure it's relatively easy to access potable water to aid in hydration, obviously, because you're going to be out on EVAs for up to 8 hours. You don't want to die of thirst. And so this is just a quick picture of one of our brainstorming sessions where we talked about our approach to the ventilation and drinkable air requirements, drinkable water requirements. So we figured, I wish I had a laser, not that tall.
Laser.
Oh, there you go. Okay. So we figured it'd be very effective to attach a sort of straw or tube that's connected to a drinking bag that Jason was talking about earlier, that would allow or facilitate access to water whenever the astronaut please. And also we sort of finalized our placement for the oxygen inlets and CO2 filtration outlets within the helmet. And we sort of wanted to integrate this into a neck support, or this thingy you see here that arches around the back of the astronaut's head and neck. And this is critical upon entry as well because we want to make sure there's no injuries happening to the astronaut. Yeah. Okay. All right. So to further address our safety considerations, we came up with a list of hazards that we had to consider. Of these include radiation, exterior and interior trauma, access to breathable oxygen, and separation from hazardous air. And so we need to make sure that all of these hazards are continuously being evaluated from our helmet. So going back to the breathable air requirement, Penelope Boston came to speak to us about the importance of preventing cross-contamination between humans and the Mars environment. So since we don't exactly know how Earth-based microbes will affect the Mars environment and vice versa, we want to make sure we mitigate that sort of exposure. And so I talked to her about a concept that my team came up with, which is this digital breathing unit. It's really cool. I kind of got the idea from a video game I like to artist rendering. It works similarly to how a hazmat works, except that it has integrated air supply and also filtration mechanisms. So with this, we will be able to mitigate the amount of bacteria that gets expelled from the astronaut's mouth that would ultimately have coated and lined the inside of the helmet frame. And you don't want that because it gets all gunky. Okay, so I'm going to pass the mic on to Colton. So I can continue.
Thank you. So another important consideration in the design process was planetary protection, and that's something new. So we kind of integrate, components that are going to protect the Mars environment from forward and back contamination. So to do this, we'll incorporate, bacterial filters and also antimicrobial materials within the helmet to protect the Mars environment. Also, another important consideration is the helmet's usability. It needs to be user-friendly. It needs to be easy to get on and off. It should be intuitive. The entire system should be intuitive and easy to use. So with that, we'll work on the software, the heads-up display, and the helmet should be easy to get on and off, and it shouldn't be easy to mess up. The integration is also super important. You know, we need to integrate the helmet design to the hard upper torso and integrate it to the surrounding environment. So, you know, depending on what infrastructure is already in place on Mars, will limit, you know, the design capabilities we have with the helmet. For example, you know, the number of satellites orbiting Mars, or you know, the interface going into the shelter. You know, you have to kind of design around those aspects. Okay, so I'll hand it over to Nick, who will cover radiation.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'll talk a little bit. Radiation protection. Radiation protection is not an issue which has been addressed too fully in previous designs. The Apollo missions, for example, they had generally a clear plastic bubble for the pressure vessel and then a visor assembly on top of that. Jason touched on briefly. And that would have a series of different visors. You should see a big gold one that covers the face of the astronauts. And that was what it had some value in blocking solar radiation, but it was actually largely to prevent radiation leaving the astronauts, to prevent cooling, or to it is moderate cooling more easily. And so you can see that right here. This is the, I believe this is currently the ISS spacesuit. And that also similarly has a visor assembly that has several different visors. And actually that's more of an issue with in space, where you can have facing different directions, radically different amounts of radiation. If you're facing towards the sun, you get very different amount of radiation than if you're facing deep space. And actually in the early missions, radiation alarming wasn't that big a concern. And actually during the Apollo missions, there were solar flares that occurred a while after the astronauts came back home. And it was somewhat just luck that the astronauts weren't there when this happened. That could have caused dangerous amounts of radiation. And so what I'm going on right now with radiation, there isn't too much currently. ISS is not a huge issue because astronauts only go out every couple weeks, 12 months. It's very rare they actually leave the space station, and when they're out, they only are out for a short period of time. On Mars, they're going to estimate astronauts who are out there every single day for hours on end, actually working. And for that, you need much more long-term radiation protection to prevent cancer. And currently, materials aren't great for blocking radiation. You see here, there's to really block a large amount of gamma radiation, particularly, you need thick lead lining, or for material like concrete, you need a very thick layer. And if you look like nuclear power plants, will have large, thick big glass that will like a lead base inside of it. And that's much too heavy, much more, it's not very effective for the Mars environment. Largely for Mars, we're going to need something that's very clear, very see-through, strong material, and it has to be able to withstand radiation. And currently, there are materials that have some positive properties. There's actually polyethylene is somewhat effective at blocking radiation, but it's not a very strong material. It's not particularly useful in the Mars environment. Here you can see this is something NASA is looking at right now. These are boron nitride nanotubes. That's a very strong material. It's very effective at blocking gamma radiation. And that would be one possible alternative to radiation coating. That's still the development process, still probably many years away from being fully integrated into a suit.
Really quickly, this is just another picture of one of our brainstorming sessions where we came up with multiple drawings and methods of how we were going to fasten the helmet to the torso. And by the end of the session, we reached a consensus that we were going to need a sort of neck dam that would be sealed by this exterior neck attachment. And this would allow easy fastening between the helmet to the torso, and would ultimately separate the pressures from within the helmet and the torso. And I think Sean is going to talk about that, right? Or Alex is going to talk about the ENA next. So I will pass it on. I lied. Colton is going to talk about further considerations.
Okay, yeah, so the ergonomics of the helmet is also very important. How comfortable the astronaut is and how the astronaut will be affected by the geometry and kind of the interface over time, working 8 hours a day. So, it has to be comfortable, and it has to have adequate padding. And it also we want to center the helmets, have the center of gravity for the helmet be somewhere around the center of gravity for the human. So to do that, we're mounting it and strapping it to the torso through the exterior neck attachment. So that's how we're going to kind of center the gravity of the astronaut somewhere where it's more natural feeling.
Okay, so after all these requirements, right, we're actually going to combine a lot of the things that we need to deal with into the neck dam. It's a critical component that isn't present in previous designs because our system has two separate pressurizations. So we have to have some way where we can transition from body gas pressure, which might be pressurized from atmospheric CO2, to oxygen pressure in the helmet. And it has to be seamless so that there's no pressure differential along the neck that might cause blood coagulation or cut off oxygen. And it has to be comfortable enough to wear for up to 8 hours. And as we're designing this, we realized that one important thing is that we should have the helmet have higher pressure than the body, because effectively our neck dam acts like the mouth of a balloon currently. So if the body had higher pressure, it would blow all the CO2 right up into the astronaut's face, and that could cause contamination. But if we have the helmet pressure higher, actually the air would press the neck dam against the neck and create a tighter seal. And it would also, in case of a leak, it would push oxygen away instead of sucking CO2 up. We looked at other suits that have a similar kind of constraint. There are deep sea diving dry suits that Navy SEALs and just enthusiasts use. But the difference between their suit and our suit is that they're trying to keep the user dry by keeping liquid out. But we want to keep the user alive by keeping air in. So then we bought a neck seal from Amazon. It was like $20. And we kind of just messed around to kind of see what it could do. So we'll show you guys that in a little bit. And then we also looked at the MIT BioSuit by Dr. David Newman. Her suit for the body uses mechanical pressure. So it's not pressurized by gas, but it has the same interface at the neck, where it transitions from mechanical pressure into gas pressure. And we were reading through her documentation, and we shot her some emails about any replies. But we came to the conclusion that the focus of her research was mostly the suit itself and demonstrating that mechanical pressure is an alternative to gas pressure. And we saw earlier that they are developing concepts for a helmet, but they haven't really tackled the neck dam part of it. Okay, like I said, we bought a latex deep sea diving neck seal, and we blew fog into the helmet, put the seal onto this mannequin, and then we saw that the fog did not blow out of the neck. And we're going to do the reverse today and show you guys that we can blow fog into the body and it won't enter into the helmet. So tentatively, it's a pretty decent separation, but we also want to go into the testing in the future and show that this works when people are moving, it's comfortable to use. We want to do some testing with real people and ask some bio students whether what's the amount of pressure that the neck can handle without constricting blood flow. We also want to look into materials such as the dense monolithic membrane, a material that we're considering hold gas. And also looking into self-healing processes in the case of a puncture or leak. So in the future, We also want to look into the possibility of rapidly manufacturing or custom manufacturing these neck seals to fit each individual user. We could use things like painting it on to a neck or a form, or we could spray it on. And then Robbie from Torso team came up with an idea that we could move the neck seal away from the neck and down to the torso, which would protect the user's neck because that's a very vulnerable region. So in future semesters, we'll look into the viability of that idea too.
Okay, so I'll talk a little bit more about the exterior neck attachment that we developed for demonstration purposes and also rapid prototyping, kind of getting the ball rolling. So the ENA is the component that connects the helmet and the torso subsystems. So within it, it contains the infrastructure, which is the neck dam that separates the pressure systems of the helmet and the pressure system within the torso. As Alex was saying, we might develop more redundancies, having more neck dams or possibly torso and arm dams to have more redundancy in that it's not just one layer. But the exterior neck attachment is quintessential to this neck component, and it will be a static component that's mounted to a hard upper torso. So we specifically designed an ENA for our this demonstration purposes, in which we printed some of the parts. We weren't able to print the entire assembly, but we do have some parts to kind of pass around. And this specific exterior neck attachment has a bolt-on design that is relatively easy to assemble. And it was something that we could 3D print, which is something that we can have access to. It's it's cheap to do, and it's a lot easier to actually. So here's how it works. We have two top clamps that clamp onto the helmet. One of the challenges was we had a globe dome that was provided to us, but we didn't want to destroy it. We didn't want to penetrate it, drill any holes into it. So we wanted to clamp onto it or find a way to hold it down, mount it securely without penetrating it or drilling any holes. So we designed the two clamps that clamp onto it and use friction with a gasket around the inside, gaskets on the bottom. There's also an air inlet and an air outlet, and the neck dam will be around this region. So here you can see how it's applying clamping pressure onto the helmet. That way it's non-destructive. Clamp design is something that future generations can kind of build on. Okay, so here you have the upper portion of the exterior neck attachment. Here you have the clamps that are clamping onto the helmet, and then you have the neck dam that is actually placed in between these two rings, and they will be bolted together to provide an airtight seal. As well as be gaskets that are manufactured to provide airtight assembly here. Okay, so the lower portion is also two rings. This way it will clamp onto the pressure suit without penetrating the pressure suit, which might damage the integrity of the suit and might rip and tear more easily. So these two components will compress onto the pressure suit that holds the pressure within the torso system. And again, this is a bolt-on design, so all the bolts will contain bolted all together, and so it's a lot easier to do for rapid prototyping purposes. Something to point out, though, importantly, is that this kind of design would need more of a dust prevention on the Mars environment. We need to kind of protect all of the components. That's something to consider is protecting all the components from dust and debris on the planet. So hopefully you might imagine the helmet as you go into a shelter on Mars. Maybe they have a blow-off, a section of of coming into the shelter, right? So you can blow off the dust and debris, and it doesn't contaminate anything. So that's part of the planetary protection aspect of it. Go ahead and hand it off over to Alex to explain some of the rest of it.
So this is just an artist's rendering of a simplified version of how the ENA would work. So we can see here that it allows the neck seal to be clamped in between the ENA and the helmet. And then here's how the neck attaches to the suit itself. See a little happy astronaut over there. So it's just a simplified version. So if you're looking at the actual printed parts, you can see the top two pieces right here. So you could imagine that elastic neck seal would go between those two.
briefly talk about the heads-up display. We primarily want to display a few things, including the oxygen levels, pressure levels, distances back and forth to whether or not it's a base or a specific location on Mars, in order to give the astronaut a relevant feel for where he or she is. Alerts relevant to whether or not they're about to die, because that's not good, that's not our goal. Some FLIS info, so we would have to work with the FLIS team in order to get some of that generated into our HUD. And then also the time in terms of Martian time. All this stuff is here displayed on this rendering with all that beautiful design that we did. And we contacted a few companies because making a heads-up display isn't just something you can do overnight. It's really difficult, and we've contacted almost a dozen companies now, and actually received replies back from two giants in the industry, BMW Motorrad, which is the motorcycle division of BMW, and then also Digilens, which is pretty much the world's leader in heads-up display technology. They pioneered all the major heads-up displays for cars, boats, planes, trains, automobiles. Anything that you can think of, they have heads-up displays in it. And more recently, they've started working with helmets for specific professions, but it also worked great within our design. And some of the obstacles that we have to overcome, the biggest one, of course, is money. Heads-up displays, augmented reality, virtual reality, they're very new, and because of that, they're very expensive. The technology isn't in place just yet for us to be like, oh, here's $10, here's a heads-up display. Like, we need money. And this semester we didn't have any, and so that kind of made it a challenge. However, moving forward, we'll have to work with the software team in order to create an effective experience for the astronaut, in order to actually make something that they can of pretty much all the other teams that deal with hardware and actually put the sensors into each little nook and cranny of the suit in order to get proper readouts. And of course, that could be expensive, that could be intricate, we might not have the skill set to do so. Lastly, we have to keep in communication with companies such as BMW Motorrad and Digilens, and these are huge companies, so trying to work back and forth with big companies is very difficult, so constant communication is very, very necessary.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys so much for listening. So if you want to bring your attention to this spacesuit right here, we're actually going to go ahead and do our demonstration right now.
So for this demonstration, we're going to pump smoke into the suit. Since the suit is made of fabric, we can see that when the smoke goes into the suit, it will distribute through the whole suit, but it does not go into the helmet because we put the negative design on it. Yeah, no matter where we pump the smoke in, it will distribute it throughout the suit, but it won't go into the helmet because of our helmet design. You guys have any questions? Thank you, guys.
All right. So next, I'm going to invite group 3, which is just Robert. But in the meantime, while he's setting up, I just want to acknowledge the people who are here. If I don't acknowledge you, I'm sorry. I just gathered as many names as I could. So first, I just want to thank Emily Rice, who's the Director of Programs and Operations here at the Jacobs Institute. She's been pivotal to helping us get this set up and making today happen. Then I want to acknowledge Dr. Robert Rock. He's our bio expert here at UC Berkeley optometry. Dr. Alan Eustace, he was formerly at Google, but he's since set the skydiving, high altitude skydiving world record with the design. I believe in a team, but you know, he definitely was. I mean, I don't want to say that. I mean, it's not Iron Man. He did set some records. And then finally, Dr. Tan Trung, who's president of Imagine Optometry. If I didn't say your name, feel free to give me your card, and I will mention your name afterwards. That way, if any teams think that maybe be helpful, or we could be, you know, partners in some way, we can reach out to you at the end of this sort of presentation day. Yeah. So, Robert, you ready to go? Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert. I am a mechanical engineering student here at Cal. I am Team Torso, and this is what I've been working on for the semester. So I'm working on some student concepts. The big ideas are that it should be lightweight, it should utilize Mars resources, and it should be able to separate pressure from the head and the torso. So kind of how this concept starts is what I've been working with is an inflatable vest. It has two layers. The inside will inflate with O2 or air, and it'll mechanically apply pressure to the upper torso. As far as demo purposes, we'd probably make it out of latex. The next part, or the next step, is the pressure bladder that covers the rest of the body. It'd be inflatable, single-layered. The internal fluid would apply pressure, and as far as demo purposes go, it would be made of most likely PVC. And as far as real life, we're looking at maybe using dense monolithic membrane. Here's a little demonstration from how it works. So right now, in the bottom jar here, there's water, and this here is the dense monolithic membrane. It's in vacuum right now, and what's happening is even within vacuum, water is permeating onto the surface of the glass here. So the idea is that using that, we'd be able to sweat through that material, and we could use the sweat to that goes through the material as possibly a means to cool the suit down. So as far as my concept goes, when we inflate the inflatable vest and the rest of the body, the vest being inflated with air and the body section is being inflated with CO2, probably what would happen is the CO2 or the air would come out of the neck region. So to solve that, or to try to work with that, the idea was to put a hard shell over that, which would restrain the pressure vest, hopefully to keep it contoured along the body, and would make it really easy to integrate the helmet. So the goal with this is to establish, for some reason my equations are coming up, establish 3 different pressures. So here it's supposed to say P helmet, here it's supposed to say P vest, and P torso or body. And the helmet, or excuse me, the vest would have the most pressure, and just a little bit greater than that would be the helmet. And the last on the list would be the rest of the body, which would just be a little bit less pressure than the helmet. The idea of this is that if there is any fluid flow, that it would go top down. A variation of the design is maybe making an inflatable neck ring or a mechanically pressured vest that we could apply a torso or a pressure bladder over the rest of it. Oh, see, there's the equations right there, not coming up. Where the vest pressure would be, a 50 mm of HD greater than the rest of the suit. The challenges this semester have been just coming up with a neck dam, body dam design, and material selection and actually building stuff with the materials. So as far as progress goes, I've been able to learn how to deal with PVC. I've been able to make inflatables, and I made some pants out of them. And so I guess I could pass these around. Feel free to try them on if you'd like. Soon they'll be coming out in skinny jeans and or skinny cut and boot cut style. I've also got to experiment with latex, and that's a little bike air valve. It doesn't look that great, but it does pressurize a little bit. And I made this out of latex, but it needs a little bit more work. And then maybe as far as a demo for next semester, as far as a demo goes, a hard shell, we might be able to make it in Jacobs using laser cut width. And so that's all I've got to say. The next semester, Mars and beyond. Thank you.
Question, Robert?
Any questions?
Why did you pick 55 millimeters?
Oh, because, sorry, that would not prevent or restrict blood flow, pretty much near the maximum that would prevent restriction of blood flow. Yeah. Did I say that right? Any other questions?
You will increase the work.
Yeah, definitely.
So, just because of logistical error, is it possible for gloves to go now? Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to welcome up group 5. That's gloves. Thanks. And then we'll take a break for lunch, and we'll pick up again with portable life support after lunch. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're just going to talk. All right, so we're group 5 with like the gloves and boots team. And my name's Travis. That's Miranda, Alan, Kelvin, Victoria, and Daniel. So we all kind of have like a background in mechanical engineering, astronomy, like astrophysics and physics, and we kind of like tied all of our interests together to like do a lot of like research into designing a glove for like an interlocking system, and also making it like variable pressure and integrating some like mechatronic thoughts into it. So just to like kind of start off with the motivation, right now like a lot of the gloves, right now all the gloves that are used by astronauts kind of cause a lot of discomfort because of the like inability to be depressurized and like have this variable pressure design integrated into them. So like depressurizing like reduces comfort by like 600%. This is like a great kind of code to kind of show the motivation behind what we're doing and why we're trying to like change the way current glove designs are. And then also just to kind of like go into like the injuries that astronauts have. Hand injuries are like much more relevant than any other part of the body. And so this kind of helps just like set up our motivation for why we're talking today.
Hey everyone. So before we go more into the hand injuries that astronauts sustain in space, the overview of what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to go through context and motivations, and then we're going to go through a few design innovations that we go through, including the interlock system between the torso and the glove, the material selection, the mechanical design, and the mechatronics design. We also did a few preliminary design possibilities, and share with you guys the industry partners we talked to, operational limits, and some design revisions. So overall, as Charles was saying, the majority of injuries that astronauts sustain in space pertain to their fingers and their hands. And there are a variety of musculoskeletal injuries that they sustain, including onycholysis, fingernail delaminations, blisters, contusions, and abrasions. And an example of onycholysis can be seen in that picture. Yeah, it's pretty bad. And in this research paper that we found that we uploaded to the MHR site called the International Classification of Diseases, they collected the reports of all research papers, all reports pertaining to astronauts' flights in space, and then their reported injuries, and they got these numbers for the number of injuries that astronauts sustain. And the number of astronauts that have been in space is a little bit over 500, so the fact that we have 703 diseases of the nail is not a good thing. And so it's very important that we focus a lot on the future glove design for the gloves. So here are a few of our initial considerations that we took into account while doing this entire project through the semester. So first, we really wanted to improve dexterity in our fingertips because in space, in EVAs, being able to use your fingers and use your fingers effectively and efficiently is like the utmost importance. We wanted to avoid a lot of those injuries that Calvin mentioned beforehand, and so designing a glove that would be comfortable but also really safe was extremely important. Furthermore, we want to be able to grasp items very easily. That allows us to like be very effective in our different building events and stuff like that on Mars. And then we want to implement this type of variable pressure design that was very tied towards actually making it easier to grasp items and such. Because if you have high pressure in your gloves, it makes it kind of hard to actually grab different things and stuff like that in the Mars atmosphere. And finally, we wanted to make boots with a variety of considerations, one of which was comfort, making sure that they're comfortable. One is durability, making sure that they last long in the terrain on Mars. And last but not least, we talked to a Stanford researcher called Dennis Graham about direct blood cooling and heating, which basically uses the pressure differentials in the spacesuit to basically manipulate that and use the lower pressure area as either a heat source or a heat sink, based on what you prefer.
So then after taking into account the considerations of the needs of the gloves and boot systems, we were able to kind of move into design considerations. And so, like Alan mentioned,
one of the main kind of goals of trying to improvise on, or not improvise on, but improve upon with our glove design is dexterity and tactility. And so as much as we are considering a variable pressure glove system, another design consideration, are there other possibilities? Like Travis mentioned in the beginning, kind of mechatronics hybrid with variable pressure system. Is that possible? The other thing is temperature regulation. How are we going to be able to use the variable pressure and kind of the heat source and heat sink that it provides to our advantage and kind of integrating that into our design? As well as, most of us up here don't really have much of a background in biology or kind of in anatomy, and so going into kind of what are the operational limits, we can design a glove that maybe suits our specific needs, but we don't know the exact effect that it'll have on the human body. So how fast can we depressurize to avoid depressurization sickness? And yeah, pretty much everything.
So like how, going off of what Victoria was saying, part of the main tool we use, like just in everyday life, is our hands to do things. Obviously, in a Mars environment, we need to be able to use our hands effectively. So the issues with his gloves would be like to significantly reduce hand dexterity, range of motion, tactility, strength, and endurance, and oftentimes it's very uncomfortable. So we want to find a solution that makes us, like, allows us to use our hands. So we want to develop a comfortable glove to improve and to maximize our productivity. So part of the research we did was on a variable pressure glove. So this study was done on pressurized and unpressurized gloves. So obviously the productivity of having a glove on your hand would be a lot different than just your bare hand. But it was found that unpressurized gloves definitely hindered some of the performances that your hand can make, while a pressurized glove worsens it significantly more.
Right, so the reason we went for a variable pressure glove design rather than pursuing, improving upon the glove materials is because there's been several groups that have already put forward glove designs that improve upon flexibility, glove flexibility, by using different materials or by improving glove layers. But the issue is that you still will never be able to overcome the primary resistance to moving your hands in a pressurized glove, which is the pressure itself. And so that's why we not only decided to take this approach of improving upon the materials, but then also implementing a variable pressure design. So that's the motivation for a design that is more complex than current glove design, but we believe offers greater benefits to the astronaut that other designs would be able to achieve just by their nature.
Can I just make one comment? If you have an unpressurized glove, you're going to get capillary leak, you're going to get edema of the hands. Anytime, it's the whole reason why G-suits, were designed initially for flight, because in unpressurized areas of the body, there's design having both pressurized and unpressurized makes sense. You may want to work a small, short period of time with an unpressurized glove, but then you have to have them pressurized to prevent edema of the whole hands, because if your hands get edematous, you can't use them.
Right. So we actually, we'll talk about this, we'll discuss this later. We talked with several, Dan Strand, he does research at Stanford on, it's a glove that can drop the pressure relative to the atmosphere for athlete performance, but we gained a lot of insight on comfort level. So we're not actually pressurizing the glove all the way to 0 atmospheres. Some of our suits at 5 psi. Our glove actually runs at, our objective is 4.3 to 4.6, and that there's been several studies done in the 70s on just depressurizing extremities, and we found that -6 psi gauge pressure is actually it's comfortable, so to speak. But yeah, that is an important consideration.
absolute atmosphere pressure.
Yeah.
So here's a picture of us in our initial design consideration, initial design phases. So basically there's two primary layers, as you might see on the picture on the right. One Z layer inside, which would contain the air that would be able to pressurize and depressurize. And the outside layer would consist of all the different heavier materials, the ripstop layers and stuff like that, to prevent actual damage from outer space. As you can see on top of the little circle, that's probably where we'll have our valve, and that's where we basically depressurize our suit from. And here are just some more drawings that we did initially. On the bottom right-hand corner, you see some plans for some sort of bearing mechanism that we want to implement in our glove.
Right, so this has already been gone over the other side. These are some of the solutions we had towards that problem. So we've talked a lot about variable pressure system, but we also want to improve tactility, which the variable pressure system does allow for, since you have less pressure, so you can feel more easily through the glove. We also found that this is standard on current spacesuits. Having rubberized fingertips is also a big help, because your fingertips are more sensitive, and having the rubberized components there makes it easier to actually have like tactile response, which is important in manipulating tools, pressing buttons, that sort of stuff. Also, we consider temperature regulation. Currently, gloves are designed such that they're basically only insulators. They're not meant for cooling, because you actually lose a lot of heat through your hands in current glove designs. So we considered having electronic fingertip heaters, which are also standard on current EVA gloves. And another innovative thing we considered was also having a thermocouple skin. So a thermocouple, for those of you who aren't aware of what that is basically a junction where you have two separate metals. And by passing a current, or by inducing a voltage at that junction, you can either make one in the junction hot or cold. And by switching the voltage polarity, you can change the temperature of that junction. Right. And then also, we are considering like operational limits, which are, we had to revise these significantly over the course of our design due to more things that we realized. Yeah, so here's a more clear drawing showing design. You can see the crosshatch layer is the inner onesie, which is, so if you know what a MarsSuit is, there's like these full body suits that also, like they cover your entire body. And you would have basically this MarsSuit layer, the hand layer of the inner onesie of our glove would be integrated with the torso, and would be separated from the torso by basically a crib. And then the way you would connect the glove to the suit in this onesie layer is through a tube with a valve in it. And so this allows for our glove to be pressurized by the suit compressor, which saves weight and space on our glove and makes it easier for the astronaut to move their hand, reduces fatigue. And then this glove is depressurized. When you want to depressurize the glove, you basically close this tube to the suit, so you isolate your hand from the suit, and then you just vent the glove to the Mars atmosphere, which isn't a big issue because currently the suit is pressurized by the Mars atmosphere anyways, so you're just venting the Mars atmosphere back into Mars. And then on the outside of that, we have basically all the other materials you need in a spacesuit, like insulation, ripstop, radiation protection, micrometeorite protection, and that's in outer gloves, removable, and has a wrist lock bearing. So this details the various layers of our glove. These layers are all pretty standard on current EVA suits. You can see the inner onesie basically only has 3 layers. We have a sweat wicking layer, which is basically important for astronaut comfort, then insulation, and then the pressure bladder, which actually provides pressure against the skin. The materials we chose, these materials are all chosen based on two main factors. One is their resistance to CO2, like they don't degrade in a CO2-rich atmosphere, which is the atmosphere of Mars. And they're also able to operate in low temperature regimes, such as those found on Mars. Mars is extremely cold. And yeah, so the outer layers of our suit are basically they're all standard for EVA suits. There's nothing really that we added or subtracted here. The only real additional layer is a radiation protection layer on the outer glove, which is necessary because a Mars suit would require astronauts to be outside in a radiation environment for much longer than current EVA spacesuits.
So in the process of considering which materials we want to use, we looked at a variety of different past materials that have been used in space loss and such. So, for example, we have considered everything from aluminized nylon, which was used in the Mercury missions, all the way to the composite materials that you'll see in the bearings in the Constellation missions that Dr. K was actually a part of. We considered Kevlar. Kevlar is very tough, and it's often used in everything from like armor to like parachute shockboards. And we use rubber and silicone for more amorphable areas. And we try to use like lightweight polycarbonate and carbon fiber materials to give durability, but also to be lightweight, and we want to keep our suit as light as possible.
So like the next stage for us was like after we kind of went through all of our iterations and like thought processes, we kind of need to like start designing something like not on paper and do it on like SolidWorks or Fusion. So this is kind of just an initial design of the glove in Fusion and SolidWorks. So basically, it's kind of hard to do the multi-layer design that we were talking about in like an online environment, and so it would be very useful in order to like analyze the different like properties of each material and how they integrate together, and do some like material analysis and thermal analysis. So that's why we kind of started along this path and hope like for the next group that kind of goes down this route will like have something to work on. And then also like we talked about like mechatronics implementations. So basically, like if you think about your finger at 5 psi, that's going to be about I put it down here. It's about 26 newtons of force on each finger. So imagine like trying to lift something with all this like force on each of your fingers. It'd actually be pretty hard. And so like implementing a mechatronics implementation into the glove would help alleviate a lot of this like extra force that astronauts have on their hand. And so there's actually groups here on campus that are designing these hands for people that have disabilities. And so we reached out to them and talked to them about what we're working on. It'd be kind of cool to like work with them in kind of implementing our variable pressure design with like a mechatronics approach. I'll just skip the video. So now we're just going to go to something that's a little bit different, but also very important to work on.
So, looking forward, we created basically a database of multiple research papers and reports that we thought addressed the issue of how we design a boot design for Mars. And after creating this database, we brainstormed a few ideas that we thought were the most important. And the design considerations we thought we would use for Mars would be the terrain navigated on Mars, the boot to suit interface, and the comfortability overall. Because on Mars, they're going to be traveling for long hours and going to be working. So I think safety and comfortability are two of the biggest issues that we need to address. And a few implementations for the boot design would be the ankle or calf bearings for flexibility and movability. We looked into mechanical counter pressure layers, which would be integrated into the overall seat, and boots can be one of those, as well as seeing potential designs for the outer and inner sole. Because looking into research papers about how shoes are designed in general, a lot of the comfortability and how, I guess, energy is used comes from how the soles are designed from the inner to outer layer. And there's maybe a classing mechanism for the adjustable boots. We thought it was really important to bring boots that have been used in the past, so we looked into the Apollo 17 mission boots, and these were boots integrated into the spacesuit, including a pressure bladder system, coverings, a silicone There were silicone-soled boots, and they had woven stainless rubbers and additional layers of protective. I think that along with the Apollo 17 mission, we had research papers about boots from different missions, so that in future groups, when we actually design a boot, they will have all the resources they need to do that.
And so obviously we also had quite a bit of mentorship from different sources. One being Peter Homer from SpaceX. He had actually previously designed an entire spacesuit and won one of NASA's Club Design Challenges. And he was really instrumental in kind of leading us in the right direction in terms of our design needs and kind of the astronauts' needs in terms of dexterity, in terms of operational limits, and he will be a great resource to have in years to come as well, continuing with this project. And you've already heard from some of the other members today about Dr. Dennis Graham, who is a researcher at Stanford, and he is currently researching a negative pressure glove, which we have pictures of in later slides, but his research kind of goes towards improving athlete grip performance using this method, but he was really instrumental in kind of showing us the physical limitations of a lot of our designs, and also obviously very instrumental in kind of getting us over the hump of in finding innovative ways to kind of combat our initial considerations.
Right, so you see on the right is a picture of Dr. Grant's athlete cooling glove. And so basically we had a phone conversation with him, and we found several problems with our initial design, which was basically to deflate our glove to the Mars atmosphere. So while that's possible, like your hands can withstand pressures, your hands can withstand very low pressures for quite a period of time compared to the rest of your body. If you just isolate your hands, we found it would not be extremely comfortable. In fact, he ran his glove at negative 0.7 psi relative to the atmosphere, and they couldn't even run the glove continuously for any, like, on the scale of minutes. Otherwise, the people who had their hand in this glove box complained of pain and swelling and stiffness. And so his glove's actually running at negative 0.7 psi, but he's cycling it on a 10 seconds off, 10 seconds on cycle to prevent swelling and discomfort. We wouldn't be able to implement that in our design, but we'll talk about how we solve this challenge later. He also recommended that we have some sort of, he called them air struts. So the idea is that because your glove is at a lower pressure than the rest of your suit, the increased pressure in your suit will basically want to make your glove slip off because you have a pressure differential at the wrist area. And so he recommended that we implement some sort of connection mechanism basically to keep the glove on for the rest of the suit, which wasn't too major of a design change.
So yeah, we're talking about our operational limits, about how if you pressurize the glove too much or like keep the pressure low for too long, it creates a lot of discomfort in the hand, like you're talking about, like the capillaries in your hand would break. So from the research we did, we found that decreasing the pressure relative to the atmosphere, like, or the suit by 0.5 psi, you can hardly noticeable. And then obviously, as you decrease more, there's more distension and pain in the hands. So we decided to run the glove at negative 0.6 psi maximum injury and maximize discomfort while allowing us to pressurize the glove so that we can increase our productivity. And running this low pressure glove for too long also increases the hand.
Right, so I guess in summary, based on the work we did and then sort of bridges that we went through, we have this revised glove design that runs at negative 0.6 psi instead of negative 5 psi relative to the suit. And we also reduced the size of the variable pressure bladder because if you reduce the area of low pressure in contact with the body, and you'll also reduce the amount of fluid that's being drawn to that area and reduce the discomfort overall because you have less of an area of low pressure. And so we thought about this, and we realized that the part of your hand that's really moving against this force, your entire hand is moving against the force when you try to move it against a pressure, an outside pressure, but really the part that's working the hardest are your fingers because those have the longest lever arm, they have to exert the largest moment. And so we realized that you don't really need to have this low pressure region on your palm. It's not doing that much more benefit, and we're just losing all this comfort through a greater area of low pressure. And so we basically have a fingertip. Our low pressure region, our variable pressure region is now basically a fingertip covering instead of covering the entire hand. We also implemented wire braces in our design such that we basically have wires running, non-flexible wire, non-extendable wires running from the glove to an anchor point higher on the arm to keep our glove from slipping off the rest of the suit. Right, so that concludes our design presentation. Thank you for listening. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask us now.
Just to emphasize, the hand is more tolerant of pressure. In our human body, we can tolerate up to 100 atmospheres of pressure from depth, but we can't tolerate the hypobaric environment, the low pressure. So if you had a glove that was pressurized much of the time, but you can release the pressure, we can tolerate short periods of hypobaric pressure to do dexterity and then repressurize it. You'll be able to not have so much of an interface that you're clumsy with the hands. Our hands will tolerate small, shorter episodes, several minutes of hypobaric environment.
Right.
The other thing you have to worry about when doing selective pressure anywhere, like trying to put selective pressure on the chest or anywhere else, is that you mentioned before 55 millimeters of mercury. Actually, our capillary closing pressure is 32 millimeters. So you want to keep the pressure below 32 when possible. You want to keep it below capillary closing on any selected body part. Otherwise, you'll necrose the skin or the soft tissue from just pressure effects over time. 6 or 8 hours of ischemia where you've closed the capillaries and you'll necrose the skin.
Right, yeah, so we didn't really mention this in our presentation, but we wouldn't be running it at the low pressure, like you said, entirely. It would only be, the astronaut would only decrease the pressure when they actually needed to. Like, you don't really need low pressure in your hand next to everybody just walking around.
No, exactly. Well, that time it should be pressurized, and you can release the pressure when you need to do fine tasks. Make that glove, instead of being thick, it'll contract right down.
Right, yeah, that's good.
That's why we have right here the inflation valve. So like basically like happens to the astronauts, deflates and inflates.
Exactly.
Cool, thank you.
So we're just going to take a quick hour break for lunch. Please help yourself to some free air. And hopefully we'll see everyone back here in an hour, where we'll be picking up with the portable life support and the rest of the team. What? Where's the stair? It's all around us. All right, so we're going for lunch. I'm leaving this stuff. What were we doing?
What's nearby?
Is it cold outside? No.
All right.
Now we're going to balance. No.
Dude, also, if you haven't noticed, I thought I was like comedian.
Yeah, it's a golf. Yeah, thank you. You guys are good one. Yeah, that's cool. Looks more well made than ours. It just looked like the guy was dying, like on fire or something. Yeah, yeah. You guys
Get a high low yard. It's interesting to see if they studied the atmosphere. They've studied the atmosphere of Mars to see whether it's viable and atmosphere we have on Earth. Just pressure, atmosphere, carbon dioxide. You could easily do a hypobaric chamber, create the atmosphere of Mars and see whether it's capable of living any of our own bacteria.
No, we did that.